Well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking your time to come and listen through as we're talking through things. We're going to be focusing today on thinking proactively during these challenging times. We have been focusing a lot on the very specific, very technical things, on some of the guidance that has come out. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but for most of the presentation today, we are going to spend time thinking proactively some of the things that you as a business owner and an individual can be really using right now. I mean, I don't think any of us asked to be in the situation that we are right now, but if we are here, we might as well take this opportunity to look for things that we can do to look long range and look proactively. So we're going to start with that. So before we get into that proactive strategy and thoughts, I want to take a little bit here and focus on some recent developments that just came out for the PPP loan. They were passed by the SBA on Friday, this past Friday here. And what they provided was the actual application itself for the forgiveness portion of the loan. So if you recall, you have the PPP loan first, and then it's secondarily forgiven. A lot of people assume that it's going to be one and the same, but that's not the case. You have a loan first, and then it's forgiven. So this loan forgiveness application offered quite a bit of insight into some of the questions that we've had over the last several weeks as we're looking to really apply and work through the technicalities of what the PPP loan entailed. We still are waiting for further guidance. They did indicate that they're going to give actually even further guidance on this because the application actually opened up quite a few additional questions, concerns that were unanswered. It also dove into a little bit more and did answer some questions for us. So we're going to do that and do a deep dive into that during next week's webinar. So we definitely want you to look to come next week. We're going to have a live Q&A session within that particular webinar. And so we wanted to give you an advance notice on that. We also wanted a little bit of time for us to go through and really dive into it to give the accurate guidance that we're seeing as a result of this. A couple quick things here that we did see and we've had a chance to review over the weekend. One is actually not what's not in the guidance, which is what we're still waiting for and hoping for, and a pretty significant item out there for many of the people that we're working with relates to whether or not related party or affiliated rent is qualified or not. As of right now, we're still assuming that as long as it's part of a documented rent, that it will be qualified, but we don't know that. And even in this recent guidance, they remained mute on it. So there's no further guidance that came out on that particular topic. One other topic that I want to add that was brand new, has not been talked about in anything else, and it's just within another line that got added to the application, relates to a limitation on business owner wages. So it appears that the SBA is trying to dissuade or to limit the ability for a business owner to all of a sudden ramp up their wages during this period to truly maximize this PPP loan forgiveness. What it appears to be doing is calculating and limiting the amount that can be taken for that 8-week period of the PPP loan. And it seems to be limited to an average wage from 2019. Nowhere else has this been discussed or talked about. It's just within this forgiveness application. And so we are going to be definitely reviewing that in more detail over this next week, and there's probably a fair amount of guidance that comes out related to that. But I wanted to get those two items out there pretty quickly because I know there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of media coming up on that over this next week. Again, please tune in next week, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock for a live Q&A over that, as well as some detailed considerations and calculations that have been clarified within this particular application process. So we're going to shift into looking now into taking this a chance to slow down, really evaluate where we're at. You know, we recently are getting news here in the northern Michigan, in Region 6 and Region 8 in the UP from the state of Michigan, the governor that's releasing even further restrictions. So it sounds like the restaurants are able to go back here in this coming week. And so we're excited about that. And as we're shifting from the hunkering down, closed to reopening, we're evaluating and looking at those. how do we take the opportunity here to be proactive and to use this downturn and these stay-at-home closures to the best and the maximum that we can? So I've broken this down into 4 particular steps here, and then we're going to get into the quadrants as well. So the first thing that I would ask you to think about is to start with the end goal in mind. So I'm going to start with a key item or a new topic here, which is, what is your preferred future? So don't start here today, but look at the end game. Look at what you want your preferred future to be, and then work backwards from there. So what is your preferred future in 3 months? So if you sit here today, what do you want your business to look like in 3 months? At the end of the summer, what would be your ideal? Your realistic ideal, but what would be your ideal? And then what would it look like in 3 years? So start with the end game in mind and plan backwards from there, and how you're going to get there. Given the facts and circumstances that we have today within this stay-at-home order and with the reopenings, what do you want to look like? Where do we want to go? We've had a lot of time while we're home or while these closed to really evaluate and think through what it is that makes your business and makes you the core of who you are and what you are. So use that information to look at where you want to be and then work backwards. And then create some plans. You're going to want to do some stress testing. So looking at your cash flow analysis. We talked about that in a webinar in the past here, to really look at your cash flow and look at some cash flow plans. So really stress test those. Look through those on some worst case scenarios. So look at what happens if, even though the governor opens up and allows for business to come back, what happens if it extends out longer because the customers don't necessarily come back? Or what happens if you need to expend additional dollars to comply with all of the new regulations and the safety protocols that are coming through? So run through some worst case scenarios that are going to allow you both, again, on that 3-month, so end of summer, from now until the end of summer, as well as the 3-year plan on going forward. And then the third item that I would suggest is look at managing the cost cutting that happened. So a lot of businesses did very knee-jerk reactions on when things closed to just cut across the board. And unfortunately, what happens when you do just cutting, not only do you cut the fat, but you also cut the muscle. That's an analogy there, but I think it's a good one that says, okay, we don't want to necessarily just cut across the board. So now take the opportunity here to say, okay, the cost cutting that happened, was it the right amount? Did it go too deep in certain areas? Did it go not deep enough? So what we really want to do is take a close look at that cost cutting and manage that cost cutting, and then kind of correlate it back with, again, that end goal of where you want to be. And so the cost cutting you did, is that going to prohibit or make it so that you can't get to your preferred future? And then lastly, and most importantly here, is identify your growth opportunity strategies. So, and I'm going to go into this pretty detailed and extensively here now in a couple different scenarios, but you're going to want to identify what are those opportunities that you could take and utilize this time to grow where you want to grow, and then be able to use that stress testing to make sure that you can do what you want to do. Okay, up on the screen right here, you're going to see that we've got 4 different quadrants, as I'm calling them. And where this is coming into is, in order to identify the growth that we want to go through, it's really important to take an honest assessment of where you or at the personal level or at the business, where were you financially coming into the COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders and this financial downturn, if you will. Not every business is going to have the same financial and strategic opportunities as each other. And so how you respond and what you're going to do to be proactive about it, it's going to really depend on where you are financially coming into this. Again, no one planned for this downturn or this stay-at-home order. And so in order to take advantage of what we have here, we have to take that honest assessment of where we are. And I've kind of divided that into 2 different areas. One is financial stability, which is what you're going to see along the bottom of this chart. And then you've got your strategic market share, which is along the vertical axis there. So depending on where you are within those two different axes is going to depend on which particular category you and your business will fit into. So the four categories that I have on which is going to be if you're starting out with a weak financial position as well as a weak strategic position, that's where you're going to have to really take some honest assessments, which is going to be what can you really do? Do you want to take this opportunity to just self-evaluate and say, well, am I going to make it through this downturn? Am I going to be one of the businesses that's just not best? It's just best not to make it through. Use this opportunity to look at either exit strategies. Do you want to be acquired by a strategic buyer? Do you want to maybe sell? Again, you weren't maybe looking at it a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, but now, quite frankly, might be that opportunity, if you will, to take advantage of what's out there in either proactively, or it's because you just don't have the financial resources to make it through this time that we're in right now. Or this is the chance which you're going to say, you know what, if I'm going to make it, I have limited financial resources and I have limited market. If this is going to be the go home, or I'm calling it the go big or go home moment, that you're going to say, okay, either you're going to take this to sell or exit, or you are going to put all in and make this work. So it's going to be using the financial incentives that you were able to receive, as well as just some shifts and moves here, just to make it through and to just put that all or nothing mentality inside of your business. Okay, the second and third options are going to be more, as we look at it, that you have one strong characteristic or one key characteristics, and then you have opportunity in the other. So the first one here is going to be I'm calling it the fund for transformation. Okay, so for businesses that are in the fund your transformation category, if you will, again, these are the businesses that have strong strategic positions, but we're lacking a little bit on the financial. Maybe you had just recently done a large expansion, or you had recently gone through a merger. You had the cash flow was a little bit tighter. This is going to be your category, if you will, where it's urgent cost management. So you really have to focus on the costs, really dial back in, and what we were talking about is watching and trimming the fat, but not going too far into the muscle of the cost cuts. And then be proactive on your cash flow strategies, really looking and converting that cash flow that's coming in, and then just really watching to see that come sooner than later. And then you're going to utilize your stimulus funds to just ensure the critical infrastructure, which then is going to free up some available cash flow, albeit probably a little bit limited, to really maintain your strategic positions. So one of the key areas here is going to be to pare back on any non-core units that you have, any non-core processes, and really focus on your core strengths. So what is it that gave you that strategic advantage? Focus on that, and then use those limited resources that you have to really push those core strengths, and use those new stimulus funds that came in to get you through this short-term cash crunch, but then allow that free cash flow to grow that core area. The third category here is going to be what I'm calling invest to grow. In businesses that fall in that category are going to be businesses that are on the stronger financial side, but weaker on the strategic platform, if you will. And so there they may have good cash in their accounts. Maybe they got some incentives, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't feel like they needed it, or maybe they're utilizing some of the lesser known credits because the PPP wasn't the way to go for them, because they had the cash balances. Maybe they got them, not quite sure, but they came into this with a fairly strong financial position, but good opportunities to grow your market share, to grow your client base and your strengths. So for those businesses, you're going to utilize this financial strength coming into the shutdown to just grow strategically, to look at those opportunities that are out there. So you're going to structure your business around that core. You're going to really find that core business that you have, and then look to grow that core business. So you have the available cash now to grow that business. So you're going to utilize the incentives that you did get, and you're going to cover your essential costs, but use that other cash flow to just selectively invest in your core and move towards what I was calling the preferred future. So you're the business that is taking advantage of this downturn. You've got that cash flow, if you will, or that available cash to really grow where you want to within that preferred future. And then lastly are the businesses that came into this downturn with a strong financial position and a strong strategic position. Businesses within this category are going to be ones that are utilizing their financial strength and their strategic position to take advantage of some of these opportunities. So they're going to invest in new products, in market share growth, either through expanding in R&D or utilizing the market share. So utilizing the marketing right now, or this as people ramp back up and come back to business, that you're going to expand your market share. You may be the business that's going to be looking at acquiring some of the other businesses that are out there that may be struggling. And as you look through, each one of these 4 categories has opportunities and also has things that you have to worry about. And so as your business looks through and evaluates which category are you, and I've got them here. We've got an article that we're going to be publishing that comes along with this, so you can read through it and see it more specifically. But as you look through and kind of assess where you are, take a deep assessment within that, and an internal assessment, if you will, of where your business is, that you can then use that assessment to evaluate where you are and where you want to go into that preferred future. I want to take a minute here to talk about some forward-looking planning strategy as it relates to the news and the media in what I'm going to call lagging statistics and forward-looking statistics. So this is where the economists really talk about it. If you think back to your high school and college classes where you learned in economics, and we all kind of rolled our eyes and got a little bit bored at this, but they were talking largely about the trailing statistics, and it's so important and so crucial to really understand that as you look forward and as you really make your plans and strategize here. And that's because as a leader, if you are going to take this opportunity to really grow your business and take advantage of this time period, you're going to have to kind of look ahead and understand some of these lagging statistics. So 2 that I'm going to point out here. One is going to be the second quarter financial results. So as you look into your investment portfolio or you look into the results that you're going to be seeing, what's going to happen is the media is going to be talking about these second quarter financial results. So let's talk about that. That's going to be April 1st through June 30th. It's what we're living in right now. Is this time. We all know they're not going to be good. I don't have to, talk to you very detailed, and it's a common feeling that most businesses right now are feeling this downturn. We're feeling the struggle. Cash flow is extended. Costs are going out. Yes, we are all expecting to see a downturn or a compression of our net income during this period. So that kind of goes without saying, right? But come July or August, when you hear in the news about the businesses that are going to be doing their second quarter earnings, or when you go talk to us or your accountants and your financial advisors and you kind of do a look back analysis at this second quarter, it's not going to look good. That shouldn't come as a shock to you, but yet it's going to, and it often does, because that's what's called a lagging statistic, which means you're living it now, you feel it now, but the results aren't going to come until later. Well, that second bubble or that second dip is what's going to come, and that's what you have to plan for on those stress testing and those analysis that I was talking about earlier when you're looking at what that's going to mean, because what's going to happen is as people get this other information later, it's related to things that are happening now, but the news and the feeling of it happens later. So as you're looking proactively, you can plan that news and media is going to impact and affect your cash flow in your particular business or your particular portfolio, and make moves now to account for that. The same would go for, say, unemployment. We know right now that March and April unemployment are going to be some of the worst statistics that we've had. But we're all shocked when that media and that news comes out. So plan for that and know that, and think about how that's going to impact your financial portfolio or impact your job numbers. Or maybe it won't impact, but know today, and when you're doing your planning today, that there's going to be these lagging results that come out later that are going to impact those numbers. Well, I wouldn't be a good tax accountant if I wasn't for at least bringing up a few things that I see from a tax planning point of view. One thing I'm talking to clients about on a regular basis here is doing planning for what we know is going to happen. So the government just wrote a $2.2 trillion stimulus check. And in fact, I'm actually going to say it's greater than 2.2 because that $2.2 trillion was the third of 3 stimulus packages. So that means there's 2 before that. So the stimulus packages that have gone out now are in excess of $3 trillion. We know those dollars are going to have to come back into the government somehow. So we have an extremely strong expectation that taxes are going to go up. And about as much certainty as I can gamble and stress, and as much clarity as I can look at my crystal ball, which many of you know I call my bowling ball because it's about as thick and dense as what that is. But one thing that we can with almost uncertainty say is taxes are going to go up. So doing planning now, this year, and maybe next year is crucial. So why I say that is because we normally as accountants and tax planners want to do everything we can to push off those tax gains to the future. We have that rolling ball of goo, as I call it. There's no sense in recognizing tax any sooner than you need to. Well, that's kind of been turned on its head this year because we want to take advantage of what we know is of the lower tax rates because we know down the road the taxes are going to go up. We also want to take advantage of this downturn because our income is lower than expected. Now, we're hoping that come next tax season, so this is where we're going to be looking at what I was just mentioning on the lagging and forward anticipating guidance, if you will, is that come next tax season, so March, April of 2021, we hope that we are long past what we're in the middle of today. And so can we utilize right now and utilize and plan for right now on taking advantage of what is a normal, lower than average year for most businesses to really take advantage of some strategies here to potentially recognize income to spread it out. A lot of people know that I'm a big fan of really smoothing out income over year so that we don't have one year where we have really high income and the next year we have really low income and then the next year high and then low. Well, this is one of those low income years, and so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to consider whether we want to take advantage of recognizing some income. So for all of you, those that have, we typically push revenue into future years. This might be a year that we actually pull it back a little bit and take advantage of some of those, some of this downturn to be able to recognize some revenue, or maybe not push as much into future years. We may look to utilize some ROTH conversions. You've heard me talk long and hard about those to take advantage of recognizing some income at the personal level to offset some of these losses or some of these lower numbers that we have. There is something that's not talked about a lot that I think you're going to see us really focusing on going forward here is this net operating loss. And what that does is it gives us the ability that if our business is so low this year, we can potentially carry it back. And where we may do that is by acquiring some equipment. We might proactively shift now to really thinking about taking advantage. And these are going to be those businesses that have the available cash flow and really taking advantage of this opportunity to go and acquire business or to acquire equipment or business operations, which then allows us to expense it this year, which would then allow us to carry that loss back into otherwise higher taxable income. So 5 years ago, in this opportunity that we're probably never going to see again, we're not for quite a while, on these lost tax dollars that were paid 5 years ago. Can we go back and grab those and get us real cash and real dollars? The other thing that we're going to want to watch and take advantage of right now is that there's a very good chance that interest rates are going to go up. There's a lot of talk about deflation right now and talk about inflation and where that's going to go. There may be short-term deflation, but a lot of individuals are anticipating that with this huge push of dollars into the economy, that there's a likelihood in the long range that inflation is going to go up, or interest rates are going to go up over time. And so taking advantage of this low cost dollars right now to acquire and to grow may also make sense. So SBA loans are at all-time lows and bank loans are at all-time lows. Now might be an opportunity to utilize those and to think strategically. And again, that's going to circle back into really taking that honest assessment of where your business is. And if you're in one of the second, third, or fourth quadrants, you may want to take advantage of some of those loan packages or some of those otherwise available free cash flow that you have to not only survive but grow and utilize this opportunity to take advantage of some of these lower cost options. So when conditions are difficult like this, the most successful businesses are the ones that quickly respond. They make the tough decisions early and then lead rather than follow. Once you have defined your realistic assessment of where you enter the shutdown and then mapped out your strategy for obtaining your preferred future, share that with your management and your employees and drive it home. You've taken the time to really do an honest assessment. You've made the plan. Now share it, vocalize it with the stakeholders, so your customers, with your management team, with your employees. Make everyone accountable. Either it's yourself by sharing it with your customers or with your management team or with the employees. Make yourself accountable and go for it. You've spent the time to make this assessment. Go for it and really utilize this as an opportunity. Surviving and even thriving after this shutdown will require greater diligence and skill than during favorable economic times. However, the outcome can be great for businesses that adapt to the right strategies. An honest assessment of where you are, followed by the proactive planning, will result in not only surviving this shutdown, but thriving as you position yourself and your business strongly within its preferred future.